There are a lot of ranked teams this weekend heading into trap games.
Get ready for the 3-point stance. 3 different minds, 3 different opinions. 3 dudes talking ball. It's Kenton. It's Jay. It's Zach. Time to bring the heat, boys.
Yes, it's the 3-point stance. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Kenton Gibbs, Jay Smith. I'm Zach Blackerby. We're going to learn so much about the ACC this weekend. Could be the biggest game of the weekend in the ACC. Also, a little speculation both on the Heisman front and the NFL draft front with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Could they go 1-2? Be interesting to see. But guys, plenty of top 25 teams are walking into a potential trap game situation. The first one on my list is number 10, Texas A&M. Heading to Columbia to take on South Carolina. According to our friends at FanDuel, they're just a 2.5-point favorite. The Aggies are. And I'm kind of buying this a little bit.
I don't know why you are. I'm sorry, but I don't know why you are. With all due respect, South Carolina's defense has done good things and all that. Yeah. But I'm sorry, Shane Beamer ain't Pops. That's just the reality, okay? This is not a situation where they will have enough defensively to beat Texas A&M. Do they have enough to make it a game? Sure, possibly. There's a world where that happens. But yeah. I'm telling you right now, that Aggie man in Aggie land, Mike Elko, is going to get it done. Because at the end of the day, when I look at this game, I say to myself, what's South Carolina's path to win? And anybody who knows me knows I got multiple friends who South Carolina alums. I love them. I know they're listening. So Naya and company, you know, all my friends in the creative group, please don't hate me too much. Don't kick me out. But I don't see a world where South Carolina can generate enough offense to overcome the mountain that they will have to do in order to completely shut down that Texas A&M offense for 4 quarters.
Yeah, this is a team, though, sorry, Jay, this is a team that has, like, played up to its competition, though. Like, when they played LSU earlier the year, you know, it was 36-33. When they played Alabama a few weeks ago, 27-25. Like, this is a team that seems to play up to its competition when it's tasked with that.
Yeah, this team is also a lot different in the capacity that they can move the ball and their defense can actually make a lot of stops. LSU lost to Texas A&M with Marcel Reed throwing the ball 2 times. 2 times. And I think South Carolina has one of the best front sevens in the SEC, especially with those 2 massive edges, Dylan Stewart, the true freshman, that's probably going to be the next Javion Clowney, and Kyle Kennard, who is a first-round pick. Their interiors are actually solid as well. The problem for A&M is, can they throw the ball? If Marcel Reed's going to end up having to start because Connor Wigman could not, he struggled again, then how exactly does Texas A&M beat South Carolina? That's why that spread is so low. The defense of South Carolina is legit, and we've got to stop disrespecting them.
Can I ask y'all a question? What has South Carolina's defense done against offenses with a pulse? What have they done? What offense that you look at that did not fire their OC would you say, oh, they played a hell of a game? They dominated that game. They showed up in a massive way in that game. And don't get me wrong. Am I saying they performed poorly in all of these games? No. But what I am saying is they're going to have to play well enough to overcome the fact that Aggie defense is a Mike Elko coach defense to the T. They are swarming. They are fast. Everybody sprints to the ball like their hair is on fire. Yeah. So you're going to have to overcome that. And again, I just want to know what offense that you look at and say, hey, that's a quality offense. All in all, that's a quality offense that you say they put up a great performance against.
Yeah, I'll tell you Alabama.
Alabama scored 25. Like, I don't know if you would have told me, or they scored 27. Excuse me. Ole Miss scored 27. LSU scored 36. So it's not the worst point. It's not the worst point I've ever heard.
No, it's not the worst point. But I think what we're missing, they're coming off a bye week where we have LSU coming out, A&M coming off a very emotional big game at night.
I think that matters.
Huge environment against LSU. That's where I see that this could potentially be a massive trap for them because A&M, that game was huge. And again, they had to beat them on the ground. Marcel Reed threw the ball twice.
Yeah.
Twice on second half. That's bananas to me. He was 2 for 2. I got to give him that. 2 for 2 for 70.
Yep.
South Carolina should be prepared for that.
All right. So, yeah, A&M a 2.5-point favorite in this one, according to our friends at FanDuel.
So low.
Yeah, it's intriguing. That's an intriguing one for sure. Okay, Jay, give us your top 25 team that's walking into a potential trap game situation.
It's got to be Ole Miss, Arkansas.
Okay.
Ole Miss is on the road. They're a 7-point favorite right now, and it's a nice favorite. It looks like what you're supposed to be. But you know who Ole Miss got next week? Georgia. Georgia. Then they have a bye week. So this is the last game in a 4-game streak of games. So I'm sorry. They have played. Yeah, this is that'll be the 4th one. So you're playing Georgia as your 4th game before you get a bye week to rest up that body of yours, and you're going up against Arkansas, who is feisty. They're not the greatest, but they are feisty. We've seen them give some teams some hell, and you're on the roll out there, what they call it, Vietnam. Yeah, you got to be careful, man. There's a good chance that Arkansas could pull this upset just because Ole Miss is overlooking them. Now, there is an opportunity for also a trap here on Arkansas side, because guess who they've got coming to town right after their bye week? Texas. And this is an old school rivalry, something that we have not seen in a long time. There's a chance that Arkansas can lay a dud, but they've got that bye week that's helping them. I think Ole Miss got to watch out for themselves because Arkansas may give them problems.
You know, I don't think that Arkansas giving them problems is a trap or should be a surprise. With all due respect, the Arkansas Razorbacks have played much better football than people have given them credit for. And even in their losses, I think their worst loss of the season by a mile is the Oklahoma State loss, and that was very, very early in the season. Yeah. Other than that loss, every other loss they've had, LSU put a little bit of the beats on them. But other than that, they have looked competitive
at their house too.
I'm going to tell you this much. I don't believe in Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, I'm out on him. I'm out on Jackson Dart. They sold me when I believed in them and I put faith in you. And I'm only going to put faith in you once. I'm only going to wait on the porch like, oh, Dad's coming to get me one time before I realized, wait a minute. He said he was going to the store for cigarettes and he don't need smoke. And the reality is Lane Kiffin don't smoke. So why is he out for cigarettes? I don't believe in this team. This shouldn't be a trap because we should not see Ole Miss ranked. I'm sorry. That's just the thing. Those boys are cooked. They're well done. Don't worry about it. I think Arkansas gets it done here.
Yeah, I think y'all have kind of sold me on this. I think I'm there with you. I like Arkansas to upset Ole Miss. It's in Fayetteville. And Arkansas's offense is popping. Ole Miss's offense has been surprisingly inconsistent. Somehow inconsistent this season. Real quick, Kenton, who's your team that's walking into a trap game?
I'm a Midwest man, so I got to say it. Not only is this a trap game, but an unranked team is favored with Minnesota going to take on Illinois. Minnesota appears to be getting better and better and better. Meanwhile, Illinois is allowing 49 points to the mighty Purdue Boilermakers.
Ooh. That's a disgusting. That's nasty work.
Just to let you know, just for context, that is tied for their highest score of the game. Purdue, or highest score of the season, rather. They're 18th in the Big Ten, 1-6 overall. You know who else they put up 49 points against? Larry Bird's alma mater, the Indiana State Sycamores. I love me some Brett Bielema. I love what they're doing with all those big, I'm telling you, they just got some man meat in that backfield. They got some massive backs in that backfield. But I'll tell you what, you cannot save a defense that just, they look out of sorts on a regular basis. You cannot save a defense that if you can throw the ball at all, to any degree, you will win against that team. I'm telling you right now, PJ Fleck and company will roll the boat all over Illinois, all through Champaign.
Yeah, you don't see a team be a dog at home with a number next to their name too often. So that one's certainly worth watching. And our friends at FanDuel agree with you. Hey, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, can they be a tandem that makes history in multiple ways? I think so. That's coming up next on the 3-Point Stance. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, it doesn't matter. If you need a ticket, Game Time has you covered. And they've got a new thing called Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They've got all-in pricing. This is probably my favorite feature. It's one of mine. It's got several great features that I love, but the all-in pricing, you can toggle this feature on, and it shows you your total up front with all the fees. I mean, how many times have we been blown away by a $40 ticket that costs $80 at checkout because of all the fees? You know everything. You know the full price up front when you turn on the all-in pricing. You also get a panoramic view of your seat if you've never been to the venue before and you want kind of some familiarity with, hey, what am I actually buying here? So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you so much for making the 3-point stance your first listen every single day. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, these guys have been linked together, and they'll probably be linked together for the remainder of their career just because of how they've gotten to this point today. Going into the season, there was talk of could either of them be a Heisman contender. According to our friends at FanDuel, the Travis Hunter is the favorite to win the Heisman right now, plus 200. He used to be tied with Ashton Genty, but his odds have dropped since we last discussed it, guys. But if you look at these two guys, like they're probably not going to be number 1 and number 2 in the Heisman voting, but I think there's a chance they could be number 1 and number 2 in the upcoming NFL draft.
I believe that they should probably be at the Heisman ceremony together at minimum, because Travis Hunter is doing something that we haven't seen before. He's the first player in Big 12 history to get offensive player of the week and defensive player of the week in one season. No one's ever done that. And to be honest, based upon this last 4-game stance that he has, there's a chance he can do offense and defensive player of the week in the same week. And I'm going to be honest, with the way that we know that Colorado loves their attention, and I'm an appreciator of the fact that Colorado likes to get that attention, I can see them trying to do that. I can see Travis Hunter going for double-digit catches, over 100 or 200 yards receiving with a few touchdowns, and I can see him focusing on defense, trying to get 1 or 2 interceptions in the same game. He does that. He becomes defensive player of the week and offensive player of the week in the same week. My estimation is that he will end up getting himself drafted within the top 5, and I think Shedeur is going to be around the same spot as him. So 1 and 2 is a possibility. As long as it's not the Cleveland Browns, I think he'll be fine.
Nobody knows Big 12 history like Texas superfan Jay Smith.
That's right.
I want everybody to keep that in mind now. So when he say that it's Big 12 history, listen, like Denzel say, I stand by that. I guarantee it.
As a long-standing member of the SEC, I have no clue what you're talking about.
Did you hear him talking about the upcoming matchup between Texas and Arkansas?
Oh,
Did you hear him talk about that last segment?
Yeah, I did.
The history is oozing.
It's oozing. That's who he is. But I'm going to tell you what else is who they are. The teams that have the number 1 through 5 pick, I'm going to name them all for you right now. If the NFL were to cease today, these teams would have 1 through 5. Or actually, let's go 6. Let's go as deep as 6. Carolina, Tennessee, New England, New York Jets, Jacksonville, New Orleans. Actually, we could go a little deeper than that. Let's go with all the 2 and 6 teams. The Vegas Raiders, the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets. I'm sorry, the New York Giants, rather. All these New York teams being
all bad. The New York teams stink, except for the Yankees.
It's so fun. Now, with that in mind, all of those teams do need quarterbacks. Pretty much all of them. Did I name any team that you think is set at quarterback outside of maybe the Patriots?
I was about to say the Patriots.
Jacksonville. In Jacksonville? Yeah. In Jacksonville. Okay.
That's right. Would Carolina draft another quarterback with Bryce Young only being 2 years in the league? It just depends on their mindset on it. For sure. Yeah.
We see what's going on with Anthony Richardson. These owners ain't waiting. If you good, not good right now, baby, they trying to get an oxtail worth of blessing in hot dog time, but that's another story for another time. Now, all of those teams could use quarterbacks except 1 or 2. All of those teams could use cornerbacks. Here's the thing. They can go 1 and 2. Should they go 1 and 2? Absolutely not. Will Campbell, the tackle from LSU, is not looking good this year. He's not looking dominant this year. He looks like one of the best offensive linemen I have ever seen. And don't get me wrong, I didn't forget last year when he was getting ragdolled by Jared Verse and whatnot. I understand that. I'm not, even against Verse, he had some plays where he showed the ability. But I think that young man, you look at these teams, with all due respect to a fellow NC State Wolfpacker, Ikem Ekwonu has not really panned out at left tackle for the Carolina Panthers. So why would you not look to get you a guy like Will and move Ikem to the right side as the tackle, or move him to the inside where he can maul people like what he does best? I just don't see how you could let that opportunity slip away. But NFL teams are not smart. They like what's flashy. They like what's hot. And I'm telling you, all these teams that are like, where'd they get good from out of nowhere? All they did was invest in the trenches. That's all they did. My Detroit Lions, for example, Penei Sewell, first-round pick. Taylor Decker, I believe, was either first or second-round pick. Frank Ragnow, first-round pick. They spent a lot of money to adjust the trenches. Aiden Hutchinson, number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, and those picks are boring in real time. They're boring, but over the course of half of a decade, it's like, oh, they've got a nice foundation here.
Yeah.
So as far as these guys going 1 and 2, like the quarterback situation in this draft is fascinating. It's so much different than last year's class. And so I do think that's going to help Shedeur Sanders. And I'm not saying he's not worthy of it. I do think he's worthy of it, but
it's a very weak class.
But it may make his stock go up. And then, so like, does somebody trade for that number 1 spot, especially if it's New England who has a quarterback, or do they take Travis Hunter, the best offensive lineman? It's going to be interesting to see. But those guys throughout the entire Heisman voting process, throughout the entire NFL draft process, these two guys are going to be linked together, and I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, I totally agree. I think it's actually a really good thing, and that's a good thing for that Prime can now advertise to a lot of his recruits. Granted, I mean, how do you really advertise to your recruits that, oh, you can be my next son and my next other son, and we can make you great? When in all actuality, man, he got an anomaly there. He was blessed with a kid that's got a really good arm, and he actually knows how to play quarterback, and he recruited a kid that's probably one of the most dynamic players we've seen in the last 25, 30 years. Like, Travis is just absurdly talented with what he does, and, Shedeur learned from the best. So he's not going to be able to really use this that much, but at the same time, it's really cool to see that you got a QB wide receiver tandem that can be always linked together because of just how good both have been this season.
Jay, get that Big 12 hate out your heart. Get that Big 12 hate out your heart. There is not a world where this is not a great selling point for Prime. What are you talking about here? Even if it is his son, you can't nepotism your way to a top overall pick. Look at Bronny James. You cannot do that. That's not how it works. You can nepotism your way to like a 6th, 7th round flyer. There are going to be teams scrapping and fighting and clawing over themselves to get Shedeur. You know why? Because that Colorado team has put Shedeur in a situation where he can be successful. They got the number 1 offensive tackle in out of high school last year. Why? Because they wanted to protect Shedeur. And Travis Hunter not being a selling point for Deion. Well, now, just out of curiosity, if only Deion played football at a high level, if only he could say, I played a position and I can produce guys who are good at this position, if only he did that type of thing, it might be useful for him. But you know what? He is a guy a lot like Bill Belichick. He doesn't really have much of a career. Wait, what's that I'm hearing? Oh, I'm sorry. My assistants are on the phone telling me Deion was one of the greatest two-way players of all time. Yeah, so it seems to me that both of these guys, two side, two sporty, two of everything, okay? That's why he got married a couple times. He needs two of everything. He can't just do one. That's who Prime is. But in all seriousness, that man he can beat on his chest just like every other coach, just like Kirby could, just like Saban could, just like Harbaugh could if he was still in the NCAA, and say, look at what I produced. Look at these top 2 picks. They're mine.
Yeah. All right, so the biggest game this weekend, it's probably in the ACC.
What?
It is.
No.
It
no.
Is.
Oh, okay, more of that coming up
what?
right here on the 3-point stance.
Wow.
Thank you so much for making the 3-point stance your first listen every single day. Gentlemen, when you look at the biggest game this weekend, I think we're going to learn so much about the ACC. I think the biggest game this weekend is the number 18 Pitt Panthers heading to the 20th ranked SMU Mustangs. Jay, you clearly disagree.
We really doing this? Are we really doing this?
We absolutely
are. We really doing this?
Yes, sir.
So we really think that either one of these two teams are going to Are we really doing this? Why is this the biggest game? I don't understand where it's the biggest. The biggest game is obviously Ohio State, Penn State. This is the track to the Big Ten championship game because you got to remember, Oregon's basically submitted themselves. Oregon is the team to beat there. There's only one more spot left in the championship game. And it's going to be between one of these two teams. This is the biggest game of the week.
The loser of this game is a playoff team. The loser of this game has a solid chance to be the third team in the Big Ten we talked about this yesterday, who's going to not play in the Big Ten championship, and they're still going to be invited to the dance. So to me,
the only one that has an actual opportunity is Penn State because Ohio State still has Indiana on their schedule at the crib. And then, of course, they've got, the big game, which is a rivalry, and they hate each other's guts. And Ohio State has to go out and demolish Michigan. And Michigan may go out there and just outmuscle them and win it again because that's what they seem to do. They seem to have more men on their team in comparison to the way to Ohio State every time. So you got Indiana and Michigan in back-to-back games. That's a recipe of not making the playoffs. Ohio State needs this victory against Penn State to solidify themselves as a top 5 team so people don't try to push them down too far so they can still make the playoffs. Penn State's got an easy road. They've got Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and then Maryland. Now, Minnesota could be a problem because it's a road game, but still, this game is critical to get to the Big Ten championship because right now, it's Indiana versus Oregon. Who would have thunk? Pitt is headed to the ACC championship game. It don't matter. They're going. Ain't nobody else in the conference worth anything. Besides Clemson every once in a while.
Clemson, and
Miami.
You're forgetting, I was just about to say, you're forgetting the most prolific offense in America. See, that's the problem. I told y'all he was going to get that retwist off that BYU line, and now they done twisted a little too tight. Now he cutting off his circulation. He done forgot who one of the best offenses in America. But, Jay, can I ask you something? If you had, let's say, 2 jobs, right? And one of those jobs is a side hustle. Okay, so you got 2 jobs. Let's say one of them is a side hustle. One of them is the main. It brings home the bacon, pays all the bills. And one of them is for candy money, right? Let's purport it that way, okay? If you lose the candy money job, everything in your house, for the most part, stays the same, right? Like everything stays the same. It doesn't really affect too much. Yay or nay?
Not the way this lifestyle is, but yes, in traditional stances, yes.
See,
you see these twists. These locks don't pay for themselves.
Not only the locks, you see the cartoon stuff in the background. You see all of the Texas T-shirts. He has to pay for his He has to pay for his UT paraphernalia somehow. That's just what he is. But I say all that to say this. That which changes the most things. If you lose that main job, you crying, shaking, throwing up. You on Indeed. I got to find something. I got to get on LinkedIn. I got to get on Monster. Hell, I ain't seen the advertisement for Monster in about 20 years.
No,
and
LinkedIn.
You're going to be all over.
LinkedIn.
Exactly. You get the point. You're going to be on every job site. LinkedIn is who pays our bills, but you get the point. You're going to be on every single job site imaginable trying to replace it. Why? Because things change. In this Pitt and SMU game, things will change drastically for one of these teams. One of these teams will be knocked out of playoff contention altogether, period. Fairly or unfairly, rightly or unrightly, they will be knocked out. That's no hey, you can win out and you win in style and you have a path back. Both of the teams in the Big Ten game, they're just fine. They're going to be chilling, sipping Arnold Palmer together, cutting wrestling promos. We're going to get you, sucker.
Let me ask this question. Let me ask you this question. Ohio State loses this game. It's their second loss of the season. Mm-hmm. And we're at the point of selecting those at-large teams, which the way things are calculating, there's going to be only 2 at-larges left after the G5 gets theirs and Notre Dame, which has got an easy road there, will get that one. 2 spots left. Who are you taking, Ohio State or Colorado at 10-2?
I think most people would take Colorado. Most people take Ohio State, rather. State.
Most people take Ohio State.
I would love to take Colorado.
So the team with the most eyeballs guaranteed, you're going to take Ohio State over them?
People will take. If you think that Colorado is a bigger draw than Ohio State, I've got news for you, buddy. I've got news for you.
Based upon the ratings on games, Colorado has been one of the top viewed teams in college football the last 2 years because of one name that we talked about. One of the greatest corners to ever play NFL football, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. This is a great opportunity.
What was the highest rated game of last year? The game. That was the highest rated game of last year. What are we doing here? What?
It's one game. I'm talking about multiples.
Oh, here we go.
Jay,
am I wrong?
Jay, your main argument to this is if Ohio State loses, do you think that's going to happen? Are you taking Penn State in this game?
I'm just saying. Now, I don't believe in James Franklin. I have very little belief in him, but at the same time, there's a chance James Franklin could lose 2 games and you're in the same conversation.
But your main argument for why this game is so big is because if Ohio State loses.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is a big game for them. They have to win.
Okay. So you're taking Penn State.
I'm not taking Penn State. I am just saying that if Ohio State loses, they'll be in the 10-2 territory. They also have to play Indiana. So that could be 3 losses right there. And if they end up with 3 losses, do you think a 3-loss Ohio State's getting in over Colorado?
Let me tell you something. Right now, the AP and most likely the College Football Playoff Committee is treating Pitt like West Virginia fans treat Pitt. Okay? If you don't know, listen to West Virginia fans sing Sweet Carolina.
Oh, I know.
You'll know exactly how they feel about the Pittsburgh Panthers. Now, with that in mind, I don't think it's right. I think that it should be a situation where both SMU, who only has a loss to undefeated BYU, and an undefeated Pitt team should both be feeling the same way. That a 1-loss Ohio State, because let's keep it real, both of these games are between the 1-loss and the undefeated. It's just that name on the front of the jersey is a little different. So all of a sudden, the feelings are different. They should be in the same spot, but they're not. And the ACC, this is a play-in game for the playoff. Because the ACC will not get 4 bids, most likely won't even get 3, even though they damn well deserve it. Yeah. So with that in mind, you can't tell me that the biggest game is one where if one of these teams win, both of them are still going. You can't tell me that's the biggest game when there's one where this is an eliminator just de facto. A 2-loss SMU is not getting in. A 1-loss Pitt is not getting in, even with a win over a potential win over Clemson.
All right. Good discussion. Good discussion. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And thank you so much for making the 3-point stance your first listen every single day. For your second listen, go check out our buddy Spencer McLaughlin, host of Locked On College Football. It's on the same YouTube channel or podcast feed, depending on how you're consuming the show. For Kenton Gibbs and Jay Smith, I'm Zach Blackerby. This has been the 3-point stance.
I'll tell you what, if
if
James Franklin can pull it off, I'll sing "You My Everything" outside his window. I'll do it.